The council chamber aboard Helios Prime buzzed with voices pitched in a dozen different alien frequencies. Holograms shimmered overhead, broadcasting system maps, troop movements, and fluctuating communication logs. At the center of the chaos, High Chancellor Mavrex of the Xerixian Dominion pounded his six-fingered hand against the crystalline table. "This is not a negotiation," he snarled, voice vibrating like struck metal. "Earth has breached the collective treaty. They've sealed their systems and cut diplomatic channels. That is not withdrawal, it is declaration." Opposite him, Ambassador Lee Serrano remained perfectly still. The only human present, she stood flanked by two silent android aides, their matte black armor absorbing the harsh council light. Serrano's eyes, the precise color of lunar ice, met Mavrex's without a flinch. "You're wrong," she said, her voice composed. "Earth is not declaring war. We're choosing sovereignty. The timing suggests otherwise." Cut in Alothvel, the Andromedan delegate. Tall and translucent-skinned, his bioluminescent tendrils dimmed with unease. "You abandoned the council 2 days after deploying orbital cloaks across the Sol system? Your defense grid spans 10 parsecs. We call that preparation, not preservation." A flicker of annoyance crossed Serrano's face. She leaned forward slightly. "For decades, Earth has contributed more than its share: technology, diplomacy, peacekeeping fleets. And in return, we've endured interference. Our elections monitored, innovations stalled by council review. We've had enough." Mavrex's glare deepened. "So you build weapons that destabilize entire galactic lanes and call that peace?" Before Serrano could reply, a new transmission interrupted, projected directly into the chamber's core. Automated broadcast, Sol Council Transmission 0001. Effective immediately, Earth and all affiliated colonies are no longer bound by Galactic Council statutes. We will not accept surveillance, sanctions, or envoys. Violation of Sol borders will be interpreted as hostile intent. The message ended, leaving the chamber in suffocating silence. Even the ambient hum of data feeds seemed to recede. Vel was the first to break it. "They've shut down the Draco Gate." Mavrex stood abruptly. "Then we respond." "Respond?" Vel asked cautiously. "Yes, with force." Serrano didn't blink. "Try, and Earth's defense net will erase your armada before it blinks past Proxima." "Is that a threat?" Vel asked sharply. "It's a fact." The council chamber disbanded in fragmented urgency. Some delegates left to inform their governments. Others stayed to whisper in corners, forming alliances beneath shifting allegiances. Serrano remained alone, her aides flanking her like shadows. Outside the glass wall behind her, the stars glittered in endless black. Earth was just one dot among billions, yet its absence from the council's web left a jagged hole. Back on Earth, Commander Elijah Vance stood on the observation deck of the Aegis-class vessel Sentinel-1, orbiting high above the Pacific. The Earth spun slowly below, a brilliant swirl of cloud and ocean, oblivious to the tremors spreading through the galaxy. "Status of border fortresses?" he asked, not turning from the view. Captain Revan Alani, tactical chief, responded crisply. "All active. Umbra nodes are online. Wormhole collapsers have been seeded in 12 critical sectors. If they try to breach, we'll know. And we'll be ready." Vance nodded, folding his arms. He was a tall man, weathered from decades in deep space. His uniform bore no insignia beyond a small silver triangle, Earth's new mark of sovereign neutrality. "You think they'll come?" "They have to," Riva said. "We disrupted every major trade corridor. Most of their fleet fuel still runs on Earth-built fusion cells. If we cut them off, they'll starve," Vance finished. "Yes." A quiet chime interrupted their thoughts. "Commander," came the voice of onboard AI Unit Daedalus. "You have a priority request from Fleet Admiral Vern. Code Indigo." Vance's face tightened. "Secure link. Audio only." Vern's voice was a gravel-dry whisper, as if scraped across stone. "We've had activity near the Epsilon Fringe. Xerixian scouts. Likely probing." "Expected," Vance said. "Send a warning drone. Unarmed. You're still holding back. Until they make the first move, we have the moral high ground." Vern's chuckle was bitter. "The Council doesn't deal in morals. Only power. You know that." The line went dead before Vance could answer. On the surface, the cities of Earth pulsed with quiet order. The media reported the split as a moment of rebirth. Earth free at last, read the morning holofeeds. But beneath the celebration ran tension. Government security patrols increased. Communications to allied colonies were rerouted through new firewalls. Even civilian transports now carried magnetic shielding. In the underground colony of New Gagarin on Europa, whispers spread faster than the frost. Not all humans were celebrating. Some feared what Earth had become. Among them was Dr. Kaelin Reese, a former diplomatic strategist turned exile. She watched Serrano's speech replay in the canteen, her breath fogging against the cold glass of her coffee mug. The words felt alien coming from a woman she once mentored. She used to believe in unity, Kaelin murmured. Her companion, a wiry Martian engineer named Taro, shook his head. She still does. Just not the kind you wanted. What do you mean? She doesn't want unity. She wants dominance. Kaelin looked down at the newsfeed. The caption beneath Serrano read, Earth first. Not alone. Just ahead. Back on Helios Prime, Vel convened a quiet meeting of sympathetic species. The room was shielded, no data feeds, no surveillance. Just flesh, bone, and intent. We cannot beat Earth militarily, Vel admitted. Their technology has surpassed what we expected, but we can still isolate them. Maverick scoffed. You propose diplomacy with a species that no longer values the Council? That's weakness. It's survival, Vel replied. And if we fail, this won't just be the collapse of an alliance. It will be the beginning of an empire. Serrano stood before the window of her private chamber, watching the stars like old friends who had begun to turn away. She had no illusions. Earth's choice came with a cost. But unity had become submission. Cooperation had turned into dependency. Earth, she believed, could lead differently. But in the silence of her quarters, her composure slipped just slightly. Play message, she commanded. Voice message from Elias Reese. Lee, please. I don't know who you are anymore. This isn't what we believed in. Call me back before it's too late. She listened twice, then deleted the recording. Behind her, the stars remained unchanged. But the universe was already shifting, and everyone knew it. Aboard the diplomatic carrier Equinox, the tension was palpable. Its corridors, once busy with council envoys and interspecies scholars, now echoed with the sound of boots and hushed commands. The ship had become a sanctuary for those who neither pledged loyalty to Earth nor the unraveling Galactic Council. It was here that Dr. Kaelin Reese found herself summoned once again to purpose. She stepped into the briefing room and paused. The space was dim, the hollow table casting pale light upward, illuminating three figures. Admiral Tessa Verne, her uniform sharp despite sleepless nights, Aloth Vel, whose glow had dimmed noticeably, and Commander Riva Nalani, the very woman who'd stood beside Vance during the orbital lockdown. You requested me, Kaelin said flatly, taking a seat. Verne nodded without ceremony. We need you to reach Serrano. Kaelin let out a dry laugh. I've already tried. The woman doesn't answer calls from ghosts. She'll answer yours, Riva said. Eventually. And what am I to say exactly? Kaelin's voice had an edge. Tell her the Council's collapsing under the weight of its own arrogance, or that the galaxy's preparing for a war none of us want. You tell her Earth is isolating itself into extinction, Vel murmured, his voice low, resonant. And if she doesn't act now, we won't be able to stop what comes next. Kaelin crossed her arms, but her eyes had already shifted, inward and calculating. The truth was, despite everything, her exile, her anger, she understood Lee Serrano better than anyone. Once, they had worked side by side, arguing about interspecies diplomacy over midnight rations. Serrano had been the idealist then. It pained Kaelin to think how far she had come from that. Fine, Kaelin said, but I'm not doing it for the Council. None of us are, Verne said. 2 days later, Kaelin stood in the corridor of the Sentinel-1. The interior was starker than she remembered, colder. No art on the walls, no signs of life outside strict protocol. Earth's military had sterilized its flagship to the point of erasing humanity from it. A soldier escorted her to a private chamber and left without a word. The door hissed shut behind her. Then Lee Serrano entered. Her posture was as rigid as ever, but her expression flickered, just for a moment, when she saw Kaelin. You look thinner, Serrano said. Exile doesn't come with chefs, Kaelin replied. A silence settled between them, one laden with memory. I suppose you're here to lecture me, Serrano said, stepping toward the console. No, Kalen answered. I'm here to ask if you still remember what we stood for. Lee didn't turn around. Her fingers danced across the interface, activating privacy seals and scrambling any surveillance. I remember everything, she said at last. But the galaxy has changed. Unity wasn't working. Every time Earth gave, the Council took more. They feared our innovation, our growth. So they buried us in protocol. Did we not agree to those protocols? Lee finally turned. Yes, because we believed cooperation was the future. But Kalen, we were being bled dry. No other race contributed what we did. No other planet carried as much diplomatic weight or responded to as many crises. We weren't allies. We were servants. And now? Kalen asked. Now we're what? Sovereign? Free? Is that what this is? Lee's jaw tightened. Now we decide our own fate. Kalen stepped closer. Then answer this. How does Earth want to be remembered? As the world that showed the galaxy how to build peace? Or the one that shattered it when peace became inconvenient? Serrano's face gave nothing away, but her hands curled slightly at her sides. Before either could speak again, the room's lights dimmed. An alert flared across the chamber wall, red and insistent. Unauthorized entry detected, Nebula Sector 9. Both women snapped to attention. Lee tapped into the ship's network. Report. Riva's voice answered. Multiple cloaked vessels crossing into Sol's outer range. No transponder signals. Moving in wedge formation. Xerixian, possibly, could also be mercenary fleets. We've scrambled interceptors. Kalen raised an eyebrow. So much for the high ground. Daedalus, Serrano said quickly, project enemy vectors. I want their predicted trajectory mapped. Now, the AI complied, displaying a simulation of the fleet's movement. They weren't heading directly for Earth, but toward Luna's relay system, a strategic communications array that handled Earth's encrypted intel bursts. If they take that out, Kalen began. They cut off Earth's interplanetary command net. Lee finished grimly. Riva's voice came again. We can intercept, but if we fire first, it's war. Lee stared at the projection, every muscle in her body still. Send a squadron. Do not engage unless fired upon. Hold defensive posture. Kalen stepped closer, lowering her voice. You have to open a channel. To the Council. To anyone. Show them you're not the aggressor. I've already shown them. No, Lee. You showed them Earth's teeth. Now show them its heart. The word struck somewhere deeper than Kalen intended. Lee's eyes shifted. Tired, worn, but still fiercely intelligent. I'll consider it, she said. That evening, as the attack ships hovered in an uneasy standoff near Luna, the galaxy held its breath. And aboard the Sentinel-1, Lee Serrano walked alone through the observation deck. Below her, Earth glowed with the same blue brilliance it always had. But tonight, it looked smaller. Fragile. She touched the glass, barely breathing. Daedalus broke the silence. Incoming transmission. Unencrypted. Origin, Helios Prime. Play it. Alothvel's voice filled the chamber. This is not surrender. This is not subjugation. But we offer dialogue. Earth does not need to stand alone. Meet us. Speak. There is still a path forward. Lee closed her eyes. Across the galaxy, borders were shifting, alliances breaking. But perhaps, just perhaps, not everything had to burn. And somewhere, deep within the systems of Earth's greatest warship, a new message was being composed. Not in code, not in fire, but in words. The chamber was silent save for the hum of deep space. On the observation deck of the Sentinel-1, the Earth loomed large, a swirling mass of clouds and blue oceans suspended in void. Lee Serrano stood with her arms behind her back, her uniform crisp but her expression troubled. Below her, the planet she had sworn to protect was cradled in starlight, but nothing about this moment felt peaceful. Behind her, the doors parted with a quiet hiss. Riva Nalani stepped through, her face drawn and pale. She held a datapad loosely in one hand, but her gaze was on Lee. It's official, Riva said. The Kexari have severed diplomatic contact. They're calling for sanctions. Lee didn't move. And the Verindel? They've mobilized. 3 cruisers sighted near the Delta's belt. Lee turned slowly, her eyes hard. That's a council push. They're testing how far we'll bend. They think we'll break. Riva offered the datapad. Lee took it, skimming through reports of refugee displacement, of trade routes collapsing, of fringe systems caught in diplomatic limbo. Earth's exit from the Council had triggered a domino effect. Worlds that once depended on shared oversight were floundering. And no one, least of all Earth, had a map for what came next. "We started this to gain freedom," Riva murmured. "Now we might be alone forever." Lee looked up from the pad. "We're not alone. We're just uninvited." In the command center, Admiral Tessa Verne stood beside the central holomap, watching incoming data streams flow in erratic pulses. The room was dim, illuminated by the shifting light of planetary icons and fleet trajectories. A low murmur of voices echoed from the analysts and strategists at their stations, each calculating contingencies with clinical precision. Kaylin Reese stepped in without waiting to be announced. Her presence was quieter now, less confrontational, though no less intense. "I need 10 minutes of Serrano's time," she said. Verne didn't look away from the display. "She's aware. She'll meet you in the archives." Kaylin nodded and turned without another word. The archives aboard Sentinel-1 were rarely used. Too much of Earth's knowledge had been digitized, rendered obsolete by Council standard data cores. But this room remained untouched, a sanctuary of history. It was here that Lee met her, standing among ancient texts and holographic projections of past treaties, battles, and debates. "You came," Lee said. "I always do," Kaylin replied, a sad smile crossing her lips. Lee walked to a central console, activating a record. A projection of Earth's first Council address appeared, her own voice, younger and filled with hope. "Earth offers not dominance, but partnership. Not power, but unity. We believe in a shared future." The words echoed hollow now. "We believed in that," Kaylin said softly. "And I think you still do." Lee sighed. "Belief doesn't hold back fleets." "No," Kaylin agreed. "But it might stop them from firing." Lee turned to face her. "The galaxy is fraying, Kaylin. Alliances are brittle. The Council is weaponizing fear. And now, Vel says the Arkan Compact is debating whether to blockade the Sol system entirely. Do you know what that means?" "Yes. It means we're losing the narrative." Kaylin crossed the room, pulling up a new transmission on the console, footage of independent systems rallying around Earth, calling for reform rather than exile. "But we haven't lost all of it. There are voices still willing to listen. If you give them something to believe in." Lee looked at the display, her jaw tight. "The last time I reached out, they called it manipulation." "Then don't reach with words," Kaylin said. "Reach with action. Invite them. Not to debate. Invite them to Earth. Let them see we're not the threat." Lee narrowed her eyes. "That's a risk. So is war." Silence fell again, this time heavier. Lee stared at the old hologram of herself, playing on a loop. A symbol of the person she once was, and the leader she could still be. "Make the arrangements," she said finally. "And Kaylin, choose the guests carefully." Word spread quickly. An unprecedented summit on Earth. Not in orbit, not on neutral ground, but on the very soil of the planet that had shaken the galaxy. Systems that had once turned their backs now weighed the cost of continued silence. Some saw it as opportunity, others as a trap, but they came. Within days, representatives from 12 systems arrived under heavy escort. The Council refused to send an official envoy, but whispers of internal divisions suggested that might soon change. The summit hall had been constructed in Geneva, where once the United Nations had deliberated over Earth's own fractured unity. Now, holograms of interstellar leaders shimmered beside human delegates. Lee stood at the podium, her voice steady but not rehearsed. "You all know what Earth has done. Some of you supported it. Others condemned it. But none of you were unaffected by it. We left the Council because we believed change was impossible from within. But if what we've done only deepens chaos, then we've failed not just ourselves, but all of you." She paused, letting the words settle. "We are not here to rebuild the Council. We're here to build something new. An alliance of equal voices, where fear is not a tool and innovation is not punished. A forum where sovereignty is respected, but so is shared responsibility." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Lee continued. "We invite not submission, but partnership. Not hierarchy, but a network. The galaxy has changed. It's time our structures did too." Outside, protesters gathered. Some hailed Earth's boldness. Others decried its arrogance. Inside, debates ignited. Long-standing grievances resurfaced. But through it all, dialogue endured. In a quiet corridor after the second session, Aloth Vel approached Kaylin, his glow restored slightly by the energy of compromise. "She's doing better than I hoped," he said. "She's remembering who she was," Kalen replied. Vel's expression flickered. "Do you think they'll come around?" "Some will," Kalen said. "Some won't. But even one is enough to begin again." Later that night, Lee sat alone in her quarters, reading through transcripts. The world outside had grown quieter. There was no resolution yet. No alliance signed. But no war declared either. A message blinked on her terminal. From a delegate of the Myrati hegemony, once staunchly opposed to Earth's withdrawal, requesting private audience to discuss terms of mutual cooperation. Lee allowed herself a breath. Not relief. Not triumph. But something close to hope. In the void of space, silence often meant danger. But here, in this moment, it meant possibility. And the galaxy, long fractured, took one cautious step toward mending.